Right. When I was 20 years old, I was nobody in football. I was somebody's son, you know? And now, with 55, I am what I am. I did what I did because of work, because of my talent, and because of my mentality.
Lots of reaction to that press conference on social media, as you can imagine. And here's a sample of those tweets. Football writer Stephen Tudor saying Mourinho's brilliant rant brings to mind a husband trying to justify stumbling in at 4 a.m. and making everything 10 times worse. This from the former West Ham player Danny Gabadon. Looks like the United players are going to have to find a way to motivate themselves for today's game because Jose's gone rogue, throwing his team under the same bus that he regularly asks them to park for him. But a slightly more positive reaction from United fan Helen. 12 minutes of pure truth. You can hate and slate him all you wish, but he is here to stay. No one wants to see United succeed again. More than this man, he's hurt but is facing the challenge head on. That's why I love Mourinho, says Helen. Oh, what do you think? You can tweet me directly at F_Ismail. I'll be back with more at 1800 GMT, but for now, I'll hand you back to Kamal.
Thank you. If you take nothing away from today's news, nothing else, is that every wall is a door. Okay, that'll do it. We'll see you back here, Studio 14, tomorrow, 1500 hours GMT on Sunday.
Janet Morales was just 10 years old when a devastating earthquake struck Mexico City in 1985. The quake damaged her family's apartment, and the government moved them to this tin shack. Around 70 families who lost their homes in that earthquake still live in this camp.
The government raised our hopes and then abandoned us.
Politicians have promised that they won't allow a repeat of what happened after the earthquake in 1985. But the cost and complexity of housing hundreds of people living in camps is a major task, and one that many people here think the government will fail.
I am doing this for the benefit of Sudan people, so that they see the importance of the archives.
Witness. Documentaries that open your eyes. At this time on Al Jazeera.
My name is René Mbuli. I am a human rights activist, a freedom fighter, and a political analyst. I want to call the attention of the world to the ongoing genocide in Cameroon, precisely against the minority people of the southern Cameroons. History recalls that the first genocide in Cameroon took place from 1955 to 1972 with the killing of over 700,000 Bamilikes by a joint French and Cameroonian expedition force. 63 years later, history seems to be repeating itself, this time against the minority people of southern Cameroon. Since October 2016, Cameroon has been embroiled in a socio-political crisis initiated by lawyers and teachers of southern Cameroon, requesting for a return to a two-state federation as equal partners or the complete restoration of their independence as obtained on October 1st, 1961 through UN Resolution 1608, instead of an all-inclusive dialogue as requested by internal and external stakeholders. President Paul Biya's response has been to borrow a page from the 1955 genocide playbook and declaring war on unarmed civilians in the name of fighting terrorists in southern Cameroon. On September 22nd, the genocide machinery was activated and the reign of terror began. As we speak, unarmed civilians are shot from helicopter gunships indiscriminately. Approximately 5,000 civilians have been killed by the military, many more killed and buried in hidden mass graves. About 3,000 civilians currently live with gunshot wounds. Entire villages have been burned to ashes by the military, such as Kwakwa and Kembong, some with elderly persons in it. Over 30 villages have been deserted. Homes and businesses have been invaded and looted by the military. Over 20,000 persons are currently internally displaced and 50,000 more are in refugee camps in Nigeria. Girls have been raped and schools have been closed in the southern Cameroon since October 2016. Suspected persons are being beheaded without due process, IC style, by the Cameroon military. So far, the African Union has maintained sealed lips, and the United Nations keeps condemning the crisis and monitoring it without taking effective preventive actions to stop this genocide. How many people need to die before the United Nations Security Council will intervene? The world does not need another Holocaust. The world does not need another Rwanda. The world needs the United Nations and the international community to act now. Join the campaign, I Stand with Southern Cameroons, on March 20th, 2018. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for helping to end the genocide in Southern Cameroons.
Becomes law, resistance becomes a duty. We, the people of West Cameroon, will resist you, and if you want to take that territory by force, you will kill to the last man before you take it. Believe that when the people will rise, even if you took the whole of the French army and added to yours, you will never bring them down.
Fellow British Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, the citizens of this new republic to which we gave birth last October 1st are prepared to tell the world openly, categorically, unapologetically, here and now, that if they have chosen to turn their gaze to our plight, to be unmoved by our suffering, to remain deaf to our loud calls for succor, if they are unshaken to our protestations and desperate appeals for their intervention in this historic injustice, then we, left to carve our way into history have decided we must fight. We can no longer sit and wait for our villages to be burnt down by Bia's barbaric army, or our youth killed or maimed at random by bloodthirsty and trigger-happy terrorist soldiers. We now need the best skills, the best brains, the best capabilities, and our best fight to get us all to Buea as soon as possible.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Amba Perspective. We welcome our viewers from home. We welcome our viewers across our platforms, including Facebook. If you're watching us on Facebook, you know we have a special guest today, Professor Patrick Ngang, while our technical team are trying to queue him up to connect somewhere around 20 minutes or 30 minutes into the show. Let us try and build an audience for that very special guest, because there's a very interesting conversation that we want to have with Professor Patrice. And welcome, Ray, and good evening.
Good evening, Derek. I want to salute every person we there on the show today. Say good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you day. Especially our people of Ground Zero. We want to thank you for always coming on board, for listening to the show. And we want to also thank all of our viewers on Facebook, on Roku TV, and all of our platforms where they watch we tonight. And we thank you for always being there. Yeah, as there we talk, we get a special guest today. We will talk about the election where we no one make a hold on our territory, and other issues regarding activism where we don't talk about for this show for a while. Just because we want to make everybody be involved and to participate as an activist for the show. So yeah, we want to thank you now very much for coming. And the week don't be quiet but eventful for some ways. We get a lot of issues still happening in Batibo, and one for shout out for the people of Batibo, say we see the evil way La Republique do with them, and we know say no matter what La Republique do, they go one day pay for. So in as much as the pain, the cut through the souls of the people of Amazonia, we know say one day God will take vengeance on them, and we now either we be consoled by the fact say because we stand for the truth will prevail at a certain point. So I just want to call out to our brothers and sisters where they live and in environs, we know say we watch and we see and we put together documents and all facts regarding the genocide where they inflict on our people, and someday they go pay.
Yes, indeed. We just want to tell the people of Batibo and the environs that we feel their pain. But Ray, over and above all, I just want to congratulate the young boys and women who are rising up in self-defense and inflicting the kind of pain to La Republique that they are inflicting. I really want to appreciate those who have understood that the economic sabotage is even a better way and a harder way to go on La Republique. The boys are doing an amazing job, and I think that across the board we need to be congratulating them for the kind of work that they're doing, because it's by showing the regime power, showing them force, that they would understand that as a people we don't just bow to any form of pressure. It's important that our communities understand that people need to depend on one another. Information needs to run through community networks as fast as the speed of light. If you are in Bamenda and you realize that military trucks are moving towards Bambui, it's your responsibility to signal people that side, so that the signal should go across the board. Every community needs to be on alert to ensure that the fewest of our people possible, are affected by the atrocities of the La République regime. And our people should be rest assured that there is a lot of work being done at the level of an interim government, at the level of the diaspora, to ensure the right kind of mobilization, even to match La République, force for force, which is something that is going to happen, evidently, because the enemy has proven to us that the only way, the only language that they understand is force. But then there's a lot of there's a myriad of other things that needs to happen. The advocacy must go on. Our brothers and sisters are still in jail. We need to continuously advocate for them. Mancho, Pen Terence, all the other people in jail, Sisiku, and the other 10 abductees, we need to continuously advocate for them. We cannot, the reality of the thing is that we are at war with 5 different fronts. Our refugees in Nigeria, we must never lose sight on them. Sisiku and the abducted leaders, we must never lose sight. Pen Terence, Mancho BBC, Patrick Dango, all the rest that are in Konenge, and all the other jails across Ambazonia and across La République jails, we must never lose sight. We must do all of these things at the same time. That is what makes a country. A country is that which takes care of its own all round. You cannot go and focus on one thing and forget the other one, because by the time you pay attention on that other one, it will be long, time it will be far worse than you could have salvaged. So we have to do all of these things concurrently with the legal resources that we have. I'm very happy about the launching of my trip to Boyare. I don't know how you feel about how the acting president, his mission, my trip to Boya, it's really a brilliant initiative, and I'm hoping that we will have an opportunity to either interview the acting president or maybe the VP sometime, just to talk about my trip to Boya. I think it's brilliant. I think we all should rally behind it, give our government the resources to enable them to do what they have to do.
Yeah, the project, my trip to Boya, as they really talk about. Now, one thing you don't gain a lot of steam, and a lot of people embark from ground zero. They call we, and they want for know-how. They go also contribute their own quota for that amount where the acting interim president be also announce them. So we don't give out quite a number of ways where, if you want for be part of this financially, make you do them. And the best one, as we be talking, I say, if you get person abroad, if you talk with them and negotiate on how you go do the transaction, and they go pay on your behalf. And it's always good to say, when you do such a transaction, make you get your slip, you get your receipt with your name on top, you keep them, because one day you need that slip for sure. Say you to be part of this, even if not for gain something out of it, but now for sure for your picking for posterity. Say, this country free soda because me I be at my own small money, my own small finances for the. So any person who is there for ground zero, we get the urge for support this project. No fear say the small one we get are not gonna make any impact. Like we talk, we have little streams that they make a sea, and therefore an ocean. So if we get small, and so we make the $2 million way our acting president don't request them. And when person tell you, say, give me this thing, I will do so. No ask you say, talk no about ask it or plenty question the way he no fit reveal them for you, because he get a plan. And until you give that money, he no deliver. When you come back to you say, Bert, if we tell you say if we give you money, you will do them. Why you never do them? They may explain for we why you know do them. But we get confidence. Say our acting president gets a plan, and because of the confidence of that plan, we see and say if you work, now why he can put his head on the line, ask say maybe we put that money together, give, make it deliver us to Boya. And when I see the marketing strategy and the fine advert they don't make, and they see some plane where they fly for air like you know, Amba Airlines and all those things. They make me feel a sense of belonging. So I get a country what we call my own, and one day that country will be a reality, and I will feel live inside. So, and we know if we get that reality, if we not work hard to get that country. So I appeal for everybody, say make you try as much as you can. We fit do this thing. We fit even raise $5 million because we plenty. Now say some of we, I don't know what they happen, why we need to put money for the struggle. Maybe we put them as a day, so I did pay my own as I mean, I don't have to know whether some person next to me they pay or not. I get my commitment to pay my own quota for this struggle for say make it happen. If it not happen today, I don't say we don't plant a seed in our kids, their mind, and they don't become an ideology way, you know, will ever die. And if I die today, I know say someday Ambazonia will be a reality. So make we pay that money, make our acting president take me to Boya as he don't promise.
Yeah, once we get an indication that our guest is ready, we will introduce him and get on with it on the first part of the show before we continue after Ray, or what do you think?
Yeah.
So we will need the technicians to give us. Can you hear us, Prof? Hello? Oh. Hello, Prof.
Yes, hello, how are you?
Oh, very well, thank you, Prof. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can, perfectly. As well, I am on board.
Okay. So, once again, fellow viewers, we are being joined by Professor Patrice Ngang. He needs no introduction to our community. He is indeed somebody who has stood against the enemy, La République du Cameroon, in the same way that we are fighting. So, so many people would start by wanting to know Professor's stance on Ambazonia and all that, but we cannot discount the fact that Professor has gone through, you know, torture that some of us might never go through in the hands of this regime, and he's fighting this regime in all sorts of ways. And I think that Prof has got a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of advice on how we can fight this regime even better. So we have with us this evening again, joining from the US, Professor Patrice Ngang. Welcome to the show, Prof.
Thank you very much. But first, I would like to really apologize. You know, today is my birthday. I turned 48.
Oh, happy birthday.
Can imagine that.
Happy birthday, Prof. Show Prof some
happy
love
birthday.
On Facebook.
Thank you.
Guys, show Prof some love.
Yes, and you can imagine that
Wow.
my family around, etc. It wasn't easy for me to come and sit here.
Wow, Prof. We want to thank you first for, you know, stealing the family time to join us on the show. I mean, you have made it special. It's like you're sharing your birthday with us. So we thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Prof. So guys, especially on Facebook, you know, Prof. Patrice's Facebook page, you want to go there and share some birthday wishes to him. I truly think that Professor Patrice is a hero of our time, and somebody that we need to learn from his wealth of experience, not only in teaching but in activism. Prof is an outstanding activist, and you can see Yaounde's reaction to the moves that Prof is making across, you know, around the world. So he's somebody that we need to praise. Prof, we have a couple of questions that we have put together for you. And Ray, I don't know if you want to start right away so that we leave Prof to go back and enjoy the birthday party.
All right. No, you probably want to go for
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome, Prof. We're happy to have you on the show again, and we hope that our viewers will be thrilled by your wealth of experience regarding not only what La République did to you, but your part in activism. And we understand that you haven't just gone back to your normal daily life. You are actively working and making sure that you contribute your quota to the demise that is happening in our territory back in West Africa. Can you just, from the time you went back to the US and up till now, give us a kind of a briefing on what has been happening with you so far, and so that we can pick it from there and continue with the questioning?
I was actually thinking about it because the good thing about having one's birthday is that one has to think about what year one has had and what bad things and what good things one has been blessed with or one had gone through. So I did spend the last hours, really. I didn't sleep to honestly say how my day was. I didn't sleep. I was thinking about my year, a quite eventful one. And I was thinking what went wrong, what went right, and what can be better. How am I going to organize this next year? And I really came down to the following point. The best part of my year was meeting interim President Sako. That was really the best part of it, because I reminded myself of the story of the Bible, of the prodigal son, and you know, the person who hasn't been seen by the father all along. And it is the person who is the most loved, really. It is the person who is going to move the heart of the family. And it is the person who is going to move the heart of everybody. So I went to meet him, and I did. And he welcomed me, and we sat together for many hours, and we talked. Which means really that it is possible in our country for all of us to talk and agree on everything, on anything, and to have a substantial understanding of what we want our future to be. That is, I will say, that was the most eventful moment of my year. And I will say that, you know, keeping in mind that it also is what happened to me after my release. Because many things happened after my release. I met hundreds of friends, hundreds of people. I interacted with, I would say, even thousands, because so many people were involved in my campaign, so in the campaign for my release, and I had to contact them to thank them, institutions, etc., etc. But the most moving part was really to meet somebody who stood up and took the place of somebody who has been vanquished. Because we all know that Ayub Tabe, the interim president, and 47 members of his cabinet, if not 49, were simply abducted and disappeared. You know, it is something that none of us can understand, none of us can actually accept, and none of us can live with. Which is that somebody who, and people who were born out of mothers, will simply disappear out of the blue, and nobody knows where they are, nobody knows where they were about. And the laws are quite clear. The laws to protect refugees, the laws to protect prisoners, the laws to protect prisoners of war. Nobody knows what happens to these people, what kind of laws allows a president or presidents to keep them like that. And now Mr. Sako stood up and took the position of those people who disappeared and created a condition that made it possible for the revolution to continue. I wanted to meet somebody like that because it is an act of courage I haven't seen on our country, on the land that we come from, for I was born. And I simply wanted to thank him and say that is the prodigal son. So to summarize a little bit, I would say since my release, that has been my most important experience, really. And any other experience is smaller compared to that one.
Wow. Wow, Prof. Thank you so much for sharing that experience with us. Really, it really makes us excited. It's humbling for every Amazonian, you know, for you to say you are meeting our leader as your most, you know, revered experience since you released your release. So, Prof, during your incarceration, a global campaign was carried out. We also campaigned in our own little bit. Like you said, organizations campaigned against the regime. And finally, in humiliation, they backed down and they had to release you. So I want, because today, part of the show, we want to really drill down into activism and what activism is. I want to ask you, as somebody who has, clearly a hero or symbol of activism, have gone through a period where it was activism that resurrected you, reenacted you. What advice do you have for our people who want to join campaigns to free our leader Sisiku, to free our other leaders in prison like Penn Terence, Mancho BBC, Patrice Ngango? What advice in general do you have for them in terms of becoming activists that can campaign, vigorously to free political prisoners?
The first thing I would like to say is that when I was in Konengi in jail, I met many of those leaders. I spent every single day I was in Konengi with Mancho BBC. I really made sure to go and visit him every day, and I did that. With Penn, I did the same with every other prisoner. And now, I think it is essential to know that you are not going to be freed without the impulse, without the activism of people who are outside. So when you are incarcerated, you really count on the community of the people who are not, because their level of indignation is what makes it possible for you to be freed. You have to actually remember this, that I was arrested and I was put in jail, and the Cameroonian state abandoned all charges that were waged against me based simply on the fact that the campaign was excellent, that the campaign for my release was excellent. So the moment one has a substantially important campaign, that moment the government reacts, because that is the only thing that makes the government, a government like Cameroon, actually accept something. Before I was released, people were saying that Biya never accepts anything. Biya cannot be forced into doing something he doesn't want. Of course, I'm free. I'm answering your question here from my own office at home in New York. And a couple of months ago, I was in Konengi. I could not answer. I can answer from my office now here only because of the activism of all of you. Because you put pressure on the government, because you put pressure on your representatives in the US, in Europe, etc. Because you stood on the street, because you called every single person, you contributed financially for my campaign to actually survive. Because of all that, I could be free. And I can tell you that if the same amount of energy is put into defending anybody who is in jail, those persons will be free. Personally, after my release, I automatically started a campaign for the freedom of one writer, Conrad Z, who is currently in Konengi. So we have a broad-based campaign for his freedom, and I'm sure it's going to give substantial results. If not, it's going to have as its consequence his release. Because I think that the moment people mobilize, at that moment, the tyranny realizes that the person who is arrested is not alone and will be released. And the case of Cameroon is clear. The case of my own arrest and freedom is clear on that matter.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Yeah, that is quite great the way you explain that, and we just want to thank you for taking up such a noble task to see that other people are also freed. Because I mean, if you gain your freedom because of others, it is just but normal that you would want to do the same for those you met, because the experience in that place, I'm sure there's no jail that is good to be habitable by any human being. But then when we look at the jails in Africa, especially in French Africa, the way prisoners are treated will tie down to the dictatorial system that is in place. What did you think explains the reign of dictatorship in Francophone Africa, and in relative to democracy that we see in non-Francophone Africa? Because when we compare these two countries, like the French or the English Africa, you realize that the English part of Africa is gaining momentum democratically than the French, and you tie the system of the prisons based on the dictatorial system that we have in French Africa. What explains the reign of dictatorship in these French African countries?
I would like, before talking specifically about Francophone countries, I would like to insist on something that is essential. It is that those people who have been arrested in Bamenda, in Buea, in Santa, etc., meaning who have been arrested in Ambazonia, who have been arrested in the northwest and the southwest in southern Cameroon, they are removed from the biotope, from the social biotope, and they are brought into foreign land. They are brought into Yaoundé, and they are incarcerated in Konengi, in SED, in the judicial police. And we have, I have the list of all those prisoners. It is around 280 people who are now in jail. That is a very old French tradition, which is to take people out of their own biotope, and such as to make sure that the political environment in which they could actually act is run of its leader. That one happened in Cameroon with every single political entity you know. For instance, the most famous one is Njoya, who was removed from Fumban and who died in Yaoundé, in Simeon. If you go now to Simeon, you will see that it is a neighborhood of the Bamboun people. It's because Njoya died there. It happened with Charles Tangana, who was the leader of the Ewondo. He was removed from Yaoundé and he was sent to jail in Mantoum in the west, you see. And if you run through Bamileke land, you will have hundreds of leaders who were taken away from the place of their own political activity and were sent into exile in another place. That is an old French tradition of exile addition to incarceration. That's what is being applied to the Anglophone leaders. The consequence is the following, is that they are robbed of their family. They are denied the, let us say, they are denied the warmth of their family, the visits of their family. They are cut away from their family relations, and they are transported into an environment where they are basically on the foreign territory. I'm not sure it happens so constantly in English-speaking regions, and that's why in English-speaking countries, and that's why you have, as a consequence, many leaders who could have a homegrown basis, because the fact of the incarceration being inside the community of their incarceration, they could build a political constituency around the fact of being prisoners. Now, the Biya regime is following the blueprint of the colonial administration all along. It is important for us to remember that it is following really the blueprint of the colonial administration. And I'll even take another example. It is the case of the king of Dahomey, who was taken out of Dahomey and exiled to Martinique. You see, those are multiple examples of exiles of leaders. That is a French tradition. To come back to your question, the substance of your question is the difference of oppression that you have between the English-speaking part and the French-speaking part. You have to understand that the French regime is, in essence, based on the genocide of the communities that create individualism. So there is no French system without a quintessential idea of a genocide. So you have to forget who you are. You have to forget your culture. You have to forget your origins to be able to actually be accepted inside the French system. That is the basic line. And I think those who understood it, frankly, are English-speaking Cameroonians. They understood that what is going on is an attempted, and it is actually a naturalized genocide. And the reaction to it is what any thinking citizen should do, which is to protest, to resist, to fight against it, and even to go to war against it.
Thank you. Thanks so much for that response, Prof. As usual, you always have a way of, taking a question and really putting some teaching to it. So thank you so much for that response. So, Prof, I want to, since we are talking about the French colonial remains in Africa, I followed a couple of your interviews in the past few days, and I've seen you start a campaign of no elections in Francophone Cameroon. And the thing is, we are yet to see Francophone Cameroon activists or the community of Francophone Cameroon start rising up to ask their government questions, you know, as to why take foreigners and come incarcerate them in Yaoundé? Why not judge those people? Why not let them go through our judicial process as per our constitution and all that? So what are you doing to rally more francophone activists to join your campaign? What's the message that you are giving to them to get more people joining the voice that you are bringing so that you push the no election campaign?
I'll be a little bit long here because I think some credit will have to be given to the Francophone populace. It is essential for us, all of us, to realize that people don't react in front of a particular situation of oppression the same way. Particularly because oppression doesn't apply to Francophones the way it applies to Anglophones. And yet, if one has that premise, one will have to understand that the Francophones actually act in a different way since actually the 90s. They acted differently by, first of all, sending all their children, if not most of their children, to Anglophone schools. The consequence is this. It is that you have, first of all, a fashion of Anglophone schools in Francophone country. In Yaoundé, in Douala, in all the villages, you have Anglophone schools. And most people send their children there. Here is what is going to happen. It is that those parents who send their children to Anglophone schools will, of course, have to argue with their children to explain to them why they support a government that is Anglophobe, why they support a government that is killing Anglophone people. It is their own children who are going to ask those questions. But even their children will have to understand that by sending them into Anglophone schools, their parents actually took a step towards Ambazonia, towards the Anglophone system, towards the Anglophone educational, judicial system, etc. It means they show sympathy. They didn't show a total refusal of what is going on. They showed a sympathy because your interest lies with your children. Having that as the basic line, the basic principle, one will need to have a different politics, a different way of approaching those people who substantially are, who in essence, who in principle are already for Ambazonia, but yet cannot express it. It is essential for us to understand that they are for, but they cannot express it. Now the question will be, why is it that Francophones cannot express their love for Ambazonia? It is because if you live in Yaoundé, and many Anglophones have lived in Yaoundé, you realize that in the world of the Francophone world of Africa, Yaoundé is the place where propaganda is the only thing that keeps the government running. I'll phrase it differently. Yaoundé doesn't have any industry. The only industry that Yaoundé has is brasserie, to produce beer. That's it. So Yaoundé doesn't produce anything to make people live. Yaoundé is not like the Mungo, or it is not like Boya, where you have CDC, you have plantations. It has nothing but the production of beer and civil servants. And the third thing that Yaoundé has is the military. It means Yaoundé is a fully organized city, is a fully organized area given out to propaganda. People who are raised there, they have a mind that is wired by the government since 1956. I would even say since 1921. They are wired to think using the language of propaganda. They are wired to think like machines. They are wired to answering like parrots. So you have to realize that when those people send their children to Anglophone schools, they have actually set the step that the government didn't expect them to step. They did it in fear of the government, but in protecting their own future. A politics that wants to succeed in Yaoundé will have to take that into account. Now, the campaign that I'm waging, to come to your question specifically, zero election wants to have Francophone people understand that elections in Cameroon have always meant nothing. It means people have always gone to elections since 1956, long time before the Western Cameroon joined Eastern Cameroon. People have always gone to election without any result that will have a significance for them, because it didn't propel the change they wanted. So we want people to understand that elections, first of all, mean nothing. And the second thing we want them to understand is that even if and even when Colombia wins those elections, it is not a bad thing, because we do not want our enemy to run away. We do not want to lose the enemy that will rally the base to fight for the change we need in Cameroon. And the change being the move from the first republic, like I would say, to a second republic that will actually change the landscape of doing politics in Cameroon in general. So the campaign takes into account, I would say, the reality of what it means to be a Francophone, and looks into ways through which one can address Francophones using a language they understand to actually come to the goal that all of us want.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. To follow up to that question, I want to talk about something that happened in the US, and probably only activists in the US are aware that a resolution 1718 was passed in Congress, and it was passed due to your horror experiences in the hands of Cameroon. And that resolution, there's actually a committee in Congress now that is evaluating the plight of the Amazonian people, and all this is to table back another resolution on the back of your own resolution 718 that was tabled in Congress. First, I want you to educate our viewers about this resolution in Congress and tell us where it is right now.
The first thing is that, you know, when I was incarcerated, I was incarcerated by the Francophone regime we have in Cameroon, by the Anglophone regime we have in Cameroon, under the pretense that I have threatened the president. But what they did not know is that I am a writer, and writers have a constituency. What they did not know is that I am a public intellectual, and public intellectuals are not the parrots they have in Cameroon, because they have been running a campaign against me all along, saying that I'm nobody, I'm a non-entity, I am this and that. They realized suddenly that I didn't fit into their model. Because what happened is that, of course, the universities in which I teach, and I teach at two universities, my home-based institution, Stony Brook University, and Princeton University, which is one of the most important universities on the planet. They campaigned heavily for my release. Many other governments were included in the campaign for my release. The US government, certainly, the French government, the Israeli government, etc., etc. All of those institutions campaigned for my release, and I'm not even talking about human rights institutions like the PEN International, PEN USA, etc. So some of those touched representatives, and one, the representative of New York, Stony Brook, my area of teaching, introduced a bill in Congress, first of all, to present the violation of human rights that happened to me, but at the same time, the gross violation of human rights that happened to all Anglophone people across the board, and specifically in the Northwest and the Southwest. That is the resolution, the bill that was introduced. And of course, for a bill to be debated in Congress, one has to campaign for it, which is what is happening now. So what I'm trying to say is the following. It is that the important thing here that one has to remember is the symbolic value of the bill itself, because it is the very first time that Cameroon has been condemned in a bill that carries the name of a Cameroonian and is introduced into the US Congress. That is a landmark. Now, the consequence of that is something that one will have to see. And the success of the bill depends not only on the activism of people living in the US, but mostly, I will say, on what is happening on the ground in the Southwest and the Northwest. Because it means that whatever happens there, people are seeing, people are watching, people are listening, and people are prepared to defend the position and to defend the integrity of the life of anybody who is Anglophone and who lives in the Northwest and the Southwest.
Yeah, that was a great, achievement that came out from your incarceration. I think the BR regime would be very embarrassed by what they did. But then how do we, as Ambazonians, build from that and push the Congress to look into our matter in a holistic approach so that this issue is resolved, rather than just looking at what happened to you as a person?
I think and so far I've met so many of them, Ambazonian activists living in the US. And of course, like I've said, even in Cameroon, I've met hundreds of them. I would like to say that none of them ever looked at that bill as an individual case. None of them. And the bill itself is not phrased in terms of individual case. It is phrased in terms of a generic defense of all Ambazonians. But it happens that all Ambazonians will never be able to speak on a microphone at the same time. So whatever the case, one will have to have one person speak for them, or speak their language, or stand up to speak at one particular instance. It just happens that as a measure, I would even say, of luck, of whatever, my name was put in front there. And I can simply say that I will never betray the cause, because I fundamentally stand on the left of whatever is being done in Ambazonia. I fundamentally stand, I defend anything that is being done in Ambazonia. And I fundamentally will defend the right to live, the right to to express oneself, and to live inside the framework of the culture that is defined in Ambazonia. I will fundamentally defend it. So there is no way my voice will, in a sense or another, be next to what is being said in Ambazonia. And I even suggest that next time when I have to speak, that the spokesperson from Ambazonia writes whatever I want to say. I don't have any issue with it, because I think one has to realize that I am a Francophone, but I'm only speaking for, and I always prefer that Western Cameroonians, that Southern Cameroonians speak for themselves, that they have the platform they need, they ask for, to express their grievances, to present what they think is going to be the best way to deal with the situation, and to give a full picture of how they see their future. I think the best way for anybody is to listen to Ambazonians themselves. Yes. And that is something I think is fundamental for me. So there is no way I will betray that. It's even impossible. It's beyond my own dreams. It will never happen.
Thank you, Paul. There's actually a lot of questions that I want to ask you on this. But the context that I want to draw to this resolution that is now in front of the US Congress, and there's a lot of lobbying going on to make sure that it's a success so that Cameroon gets sanctions. This is the same kind of a resolution that led to the fall of the likes of Mobutu, that led to the fall of apartheid in South Africa. This is something that is historical, and at the same time, the impact of such a resolution going through in the American Congress is huge. Just inspired by your release through campaigning for you, and we saw Stonebrook University, we saw your professional networks campaigning for you. Inspired by that, we started the Ambazonian Prisoners of Conscience Support Network to campaign for our prisoners in a professional way. And we are actually planning a congregational lobby day to lobby Congress people across America, send them personal emails from our people in America, from various sites in America, to various congressmen, to tell them about what is happening in Ambazonia. Our team in the US will be reaching out to you. Would you support them, in that congregational lobby towards this bill?
I'm actually doing that already.
Wow.
I can say that anything that is happening. I'm not only part of the team. I'm actually a full-term supporter of the team. So both of it are happening. Awesome. And in terms of Ambazonian Prisoners of Conscience, you have the list of those prisoners who are in Konengi, in Bamenda. We are still waiting for the list of those who are in Boya. And I think it is essential for us to understand the following. I will not have been released without the help of other people. Before my incarceration, I was involved in the campaign for the release of many prisoners who actually happened to have been freed. After my incarceration, I'm not going to stop, of course, because the chain of solidarity is the only thing that can keep us going. If I'm released and I simply say bye-bye, I'm happy, it means I'm actually giving a voice to infamy. So it is essential for me to keep the heat on the people who incarcerate Cameroonians, to make sure that the experience of somebody who is incarcerated, who will help and who has been freed, will help the campaign for the freedom of anybody he met or she met in prison. That's what I'm doing. And I think the moment we realize that a coalition is the only thing that can help us out of our own captivity, that moment we'll see that we have moved a way forward towards our collective liberation.
Well, I think that's one campaign that we really need to put our weight on, because we have never been to Kundenge or any of the prisons in Cameroon for that matter. We can only imagine what they are going through, and based on the experience that we've had from people like you, we are really behind this prisoner of conscience campaign, and we want to do everything to make sure that our prisoners, our brothers, are released from incarceration. Now, looking at your political engagement, you're one of one unique person who has come out of La République and is pushing a campaign that probably many people from across the Mongo, from Ambazonia, may not support. How have you become a role model to some francophones in La République to also kind of support what you are doing and take up certain aspects of what you're doing to maybe, if not for the liberation of Ambazonia, but for human rights, to campaign against human rights that is meted on the people of Ambazonia?
When you start a campaign, you always have to be humble. This is not my first campaign. I've started campaigns actually since, I would say, 2005. And in many of those campaigns, the people I campaigned for were freed. I actually remember Joe La Conscience in 2008. He was the only person who, on May the 20th, left the jail after the decree of Biya giving amnesty to all the youngsters who had been arrested during the unrest of February 2008. And I am the one with the code who campaigned for his release. I remember Joe La Conscience, certainly Bertrand Taylor, I wanted to say, in 2011, who also was released. Eno Meyomese, who was released. So it means I have a long history of success in campaigning. My history there is that no campaign starts on top. It is important because when somebody is arrested, this normal reaction of anybody will be that the person is guilty. And you can bet that the government is doing everything to actually have people believe that the person is guilty. In my particular case, I was presented as a thug, as a demented individual, as etc., and by people who come from all corners of the planet. Ashim Bembe, who is a professor with Watersrand in South Africa, presented me as a demented person. You can imagine that it was actually a home game for propaganda in Cameroon with that, because they actually say, oh, that person is insane, so he can actually be in jail, or even if he is freed, it is on the basis of his insanity. And yet Ashim Bembe has never written or met any scientific analysis of who I am. So what I'm trying to say is that any campaign that is starting will have to face the counter position of people from the left and the right who believe the person who is incarcerated to be guilty. That is essential. It means the campaign has to be humble. It starts from zero, really, having only one person to defend the person who is incarcerated. And with that, the speed is going to grow. The speed is going to grow because more and more people who are simply rational tend not to understand why somebody who actually did nothing will be kept into incarceration. Let me be concrete here. No well-thinking Cameroonian, no human being will understand why Biya is waging a war against Anglophones. Why? What is the reason? What is the rationale behind it? No thinking person will understand why people are taken from the street and kept in Konengi and sentenced to 20 years in jail for having had a piece of paper in their hand. What is the rationale behind that? Why does it make those people stay in jail? Nobody will understand why somebody will be robbed from Bamenda, from Boya, from Santa, from wherever, and brought to Yaoundé for 2 years and sentenced on charges like terrorism, endangering the security of the state, when the person actually sometimes is sentenced by a judge who speaks only French and the person speaks English. Nobody can understand that. So there is no reason why a thinking Cameroonian will stand behind the Biya regime and accept the infamy that is going through. But anybody will need some time to think about it, which is happening. It means more and more people will realize that what is being done in their name is criminal. And not only the incarceration, but also the war. The last thing I would like to say is that when on November the 30th, 2017, Biya declared war against the Anglophone people, nobody will understand why a president would declare war against a part of the country made of 30% of the population of the country, because everybody sees the people who are incarcerated, the people who are killed, all of them are Anglophones. The people who are doing the killing, the people who are actually shooting at, all of them are Francophones. So nobody will understand why on the one hand, one has only Anglophone people who are being killed and who are being incarcerated. And on the other hand, one has only Francophones who are doing the killing and who are actually arresting people. That is something that keeps the mind of people, rolling.
Yeah.
And always remember the following. I'm going to fall down on this one. Apartheid, actually, at its very beginning, people actually didn't understand that it was unjust. People didn't understand that it was criminal. But it took time for them to realize that the crime that was committed, the things that were, committed, done in their names, were criminal. And they stood against it. Apartheid finally fought.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Before I know you mentioned Prof. Achille Mbembe, whom in the Francophone circle, somebody who is, his thought is taken with a lot of weight. And I would let Ray ask a question about Prof. Achille Mbembe. I would not want to ask that. But I want to go back on this Resolution 718. The introduction, when you started talking about it, you said your university, Stony Brook, the professors, they launched this bill in Congress. And why I'm saying that, I'm saying because we have a merit of Southern Cameroon professors and other professions, in fact, a lot of PhDs. And my question to them is, why don't they leverage their professional networks? In times like this, we have too many people in prison, some of them professors. Penn Terence was principal of CAS. A lot of teachers are in prison, a lot of students are in prison. We have a lot of professors out there. Advise them, Prof, how they can leverage their professional networks to lobby for them, because these campaigns, they depend a lot on professional networks. Like this bill in Congress now was put there by your colleagues, professor colleagues. We have a lot of doctors in various fields, people who are activists, people who are fighting for the freedom of Ambazonia. But the one thing that I see not a lot of people are using or trying to use is their professional networks to leverage, especially around areas of human rights, because I know that whether somebody wants a country to be independent or not independent, we all have the same stance on human rights abuse. We all have the same stance on refugees. We all have the same stance on political prisoners. So advise our professors, our learned people of Ambazonia, especially in the diaspora, how they can use their networks, to leverage in the struggle, especially to help the suffering, the prisoners, the refugees, and those that are being, shot and all that. I want to hear your advice in that area. This is now to our learned people.
I think it is important for all of us to realize that the people who are incarcerated and killed are adults. First of all, I know that children are being treated in a way. For instance, I hope we'll have the time to talk about refugees, and it is essential because we are talking about the whole population that is violated in their human rights. Now, the people who are, the people who are killed, the people who are being incarcerated, I met many of them, like I said, hundreds of them. Most of them are working individuals. For instance, Ben Khan was a working teacher. Right? He's in Konengi there, and he was in charge of human resources. So if I take, many of the people I met all of them were really professionals. So if one thinks that the security of one's job gives one the freedom of actually being able to work without taking care of the people who are actually arrested, one forgets the following. Next day it can be you. Next day it can be you. I've seen doctors who are being killed in Bamenda. I've seen teachers who are being killed. Next day it can be you. You never know. And when one is killed in Bamenda, in Boya, etc., the reason is simply the bottom line. You are Anglophone. There is no other reason but that. So before, and the case of South Africa is really important here. You were being killed, you were being arrested on the basis only of your skin color. In Cameroon, you are killed, you are arrested simply on the basis of the fact that you are an Anglophone. There's nothing there. So human rights is the basic relation that one has to put in forefront. In my particular case, my colleagues understood that, frankly, quite quickly. Because as writers tend to actually be quite luminous on that issue. They realize that, the freedom of expression is a human right. It is not what you say. It is simply the fact that you have the freedom to express what you want to say. That has to be protected. And everybody understood it from the get-go. And as for the case of Amazonia, anybody who thinks that profession gives you the freedom to look at the people who are being arrested and incarcerated and pass judgment over them, it's in a mistake. It's in delusion. And my advice would be mobilize your professions, mobilize your colleagues, mobilize particularly white people, mobilize them because they are understanding what is going on the basis of human rights, and they will stand for you and they will fight for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Now, that brings us to the question of Prof. Achille Mbembe. I would like Raymond to...
You just go ahead. I have another question for Prof.
Okay. Yeah. So, Prof, your position seems to differ a lot with that of Prof. Achille. And whenever politically people are talking about Cameroon, Prof. Achille Mbembe is mentioned a lot. He's a thought leader when it comes to the political dispensation of Cameroon. And he differs with you a lot on your stance on Ambazonia. Some critics say you are engaged in a social justice movement, but Professor Mbembe is not. He's not engaged, but he's equally an intellectual on his own right. So what would be your, I don't want to say what would be your judgment on his stance as Professor Mbembe? What do you say about that?
I think there is something I can simply phrase I can quickly phrase in French. It is what in the Francophone world we call le mauvais cœur. So evil heart, if you want. And I think people of my generation whose background in politics, whose activism is born out of what we call the Parlement, understand a couple of things. The first thing they understand is that the driving force of politics in Cameroon is Anglophone. That is the first thing we understand. It is not even a matter of arguing, it is common sense. Because as students, we saw that our Anglophone comrades, our Anglophone friends were always the first ones to walk, to stand for freedom. When, Francophone students were actually slow-paced, were eaten up by ethnic politics, etc. We understood that the vanguard of change in Cameroon were Anglophones. That is a matter of generation. The second thing is that as parliamentaires, and I can speak for all parliamentaires, and we are across the globe, we understood that there is no politics without action. Politics is based on action. Whatever you want to do, you have to act. And whatever you think is important in politics, you have to act. So the first thing you have to do is act. So what do? You act first and then you think, is it left or right? But you have to act. That is the second thing we understood. And now the third thing we understood is that action is based on a coalition. So you can, of course, act alone. You can go every day on TV. You can go to French, to the French media, RFI, and talk and talk and talk. It will bring no change. You need to build a coalition. That is what the parliamentary movement understood when I was 18. I was 18, 19 when I was a parliamentary. And I can tell you that anybody who is a parliamentarian knows that, because it is the teaching of our own time. Number one is that Anglophones are the driving force of politics in Cameroon, are the vanguard of politics in Cameroon. Number two is that if you want to do politics, you have to act. You don't talk, you act. And number three, action in politics is based on a coalition. And that coalition is what? It is that when somebody is arrested, you don't think twice. You know yourself that the next time is going to be you. So you'd better get up and do something. Why did parliamentarians learn that? They learned that because most of our leaders were arrested. Most of our leaders spent time in jail. They learned that because most of our leaders were expelled from all state universities. And they landed in Burkina Faso. They had to count on a network of people to be able to leave Cameroon, to be able to leave Burkina Faso to go to Senegal, to be able to leave Senegal to go to Europe and to the US. Without that coalition, they would have been nowhere. Just to say that my difference with Ashim Bembe is, I think, political. It is generational, but fundamentally, I would say it is based on what in Francophone country we call le mauvais cœur. Because somebody who is will never have the mauvais cœur. He is simply she is somebody who from the get-go is generous. It's somebody whose politics can only be generous because it is propelled towards the well-being of everybody, of other people, of individuals. It is not there to increase the political position, the intellectual position of one single entity for everybody across the globe to know that this Ashim Bembe is intelligent. No. I could personally, as a writer, as a scholar, I teach at the best university on earth, at Princeton University. I've published 12 books translated in, dozens of languages. I could have used that for my own political, for my own personal gain. But I understood that as a parliamentarian, I cannot go anywhere if it was not for what other people did for me. I will not go anywhere if it was not for the fact that the coalition is always there to support me. And guess what? My own liberation is a testimony of the fact that those three principles I just expressed work still today. Thousands of people mobilized themselves for my freedom, and I was freed. Cameroon has never freed somebody like it did for me. It dropped all the charges against me, and I was freed. So one can see that the term of politics, or the kind of politics that parliamentarians set on the table, worked on during the 90s, in the 2000s, is a winning strategy. And what Ashim Bembe is doing, that kind of generation, is going nowhere. So one can actually judge and see who is on the winning side and who is actually having a politics that can help Cameroon better and who is actually not. That will be my reaction to that. And I think many people understand that we belong to a generation that is willing to understand what is going on in Anglophone country as being the vanguard of change in our life. Secondly, saying that action is what is going to propel change in Cameroon, and that action is not possible on the basis of individuality, but on a broad-based coalition.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Prof, for that explanation. It becomes so intellectual, some of our viewers do not understand, but I am hoping that with time they're going to understand certain things that you place out there. Now, I just want to come back to the Ambazonian revolution. There's something that our interim government has a project that they have just introduced, My Trip to Boya. I'm sure you must have heard about it. I would like to yeah, wow, 100%. Wow, that's great. I would just like you to tell us about what you think about My Trip to Boya and how, in your capacity and using your networks, like Derek says, in your position, you use networks to do certain things. Can you do to help us achieve that project together with our interim government?
The first thing is financial. Even in Cameroon, we understand it very fast, very well. You have to pay for that trip. You don't jump on a plane, you don't jump on a bus, on a car, in a taxi, without paying the fees. That's essential. That's number one. Wherever you are, you have to pay the fees. You don't travel without paying the fees. It's not working. So I will say the first thing is financial. And the fund drive, it is a fund drive. It is a campaign to raise funds, to make sure that the trip to Buea is possible financially. And I think anybody who has 1 cent, $1, 1 franc, €1, if that person contributes, if you are 1 million person, you already have $1 million. You see, that is the basic line, that is the basic option, that's the basic thought. And I will say contribute. My contribution is already there, so contribute. Anybody who wants that trip to happen will have to contribute. That's what is to be done. So there is no way around it. You just have to think pragmatically. Have I ever taken a taxi without paying? Have I ever taken a motor taxi without paying? Have I ever taken a plane without paying? No. So if you have never, so it means you have to pay the fee for the trip to Buea. That's my method. That will be my analysis there. It is a no-brainer. It is not a matter of metaphysics or of degrees, etc. It's the basic line of fundraising. Contribute, contribute, contribute. The second thing is organize. Of course, when you go someplace, you have to make sure that the place is prepared for you to arrive. So you have to make sure that Buea is a place where you have to arrive and be welcomed. So it means you don't only contribute, you make sure that Buea becomes a place that can welcome every well-meaning and well-thinking person. So it has to be the capital of the new land that one is hoping for. So that is the second thing that one has to put on the table. One has to walk and make sure that Buea is a welcoming place. It means one has to make sure that the war that is waged against the Anglophone people is stopped, in the sense that the military, that the Francophone military that's occupying the land is sent back home. That's essential, because you are not going to go to a place where you have mines, where you have killings, etc. You have to make sure that the Biya regime demilitarizes the place. It means you have to engage yourself into working for a demilitarization of Buea, of Ambazonia. That is my understanding of that, which is, it has 2 chapters. Contribute, give money, give money, give money. And secondly, make sure that the Biya regime brings its military out.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof, for taking off time on your birthday to come on Amba Perspective and have a conversation with us. I think our viewers learned a lot from you. We in the studios, we did learn. We want to thank you so much, wish you a very happy birthday, and we would let you to go back and continue your birthday with your family. Ambazonians really love you the same way as you love Ambazonians. And I'm sure once the Ambazonian passport is ready, you'll be one of the first few people to get your own Ambazonian passport. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much.
And happy birthday again, Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, as we let Prof go to continue with his family and his birthday, we just want to say we are really grateful for the time that Prof is spending in activism. Prof is indeed a teacher, and every Ambazonian who doesn't want to learn from the activism of Prof Patrice Ngana, who is a real example, he has said, in as much as the bill is passed in his name in the U.S. Congress, he would want an Ambazonian representative to come to the U.S. Congress to speak for Ambazonia, not him, because he is not Ambazonia by birth. If any Ambazonian doesn't get the generosity of that, then we don't know what we are doing. That bill in the U.S. is a very, very important piece of the puzzle towards our revolution. Like I mentioned before, the likes of Mobutu, apartheid, all of those, they fell in the hands of the U.S. Congress. A bill like that one has the capacity to get the U.S. to sanction Cameroon, La République du Cameroon, in every way possible if that bill gets passed. But what do we need to do? We need to lobby. We need to lobby in a crazy way. We need to lobby the U.S. Congress like never before. In all 54 states of the U.S. of America, we have at least 20 Ambazonians, arguably, because even in Alaska, we have a whole community, Ambazonian community in Alaska. So we have Ambazonians in every community in the US. So there is no reason that when we launch a campaign to notify your people in Congress, you don't send those emails to your Congress people. America is one of those countries where all congressmen, they track the emails that come to them. They track the issues that are being talked about. So we are going to take the letter for this particular bill that has been passed in the US Congress. We would launch the campaign as well on the Ambazonian Prisoners of Conscience page, and we are begging on every Ambazonian in America to take that campaign letter and send to the congressman representing them, send to your senator, so that by the time that this bill gets to Congress and they're debating it, all of them have heard from individuals who stay in their constituency. Yeah. Now, we have gotten probably the best announcement that we will ever get on Amba Perspective. We've just gotten word that we will interview the acting vice president, Mr. Milton Tucker, on Amba Perspective to talk about the trip to Boya. I know that a lot of people were agitating, let's talk about the trip to Boya. His acting vice president, Mr. Tucker Milton is on his way to the studio. So we will spend a little bit more time than usual today because we want to take questions and answers with the acting vice president on my trip to Boya. I think it's the most important thing that every Ambazonian needs to be talking about now. So we will take a music break. After that music break, we'll come and open our phone lines. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your perspective. We want to hear from you about what the things that Prof has discussed here while we wait for the acting vice president to get to the studios, and then we'll get him here and interview him on my trip to Boya. That is going to be the next part of the show, but we'll have a small music break.
Let me just say something there.
Yeah, go ahead,
you know, we Ambazonians, if I will educate ourselves a little bit, just because some person speak French, no means say if we support the Ambazonian cause 100%. I want back when I say make some people they try to understand and read person, then understand where the person they come from. And I will give you an example. In the time of apartheid, where white people they really brutalize, they kill black people, you get white South Africans where they be stand against such injustice and they be fight the apartheid government to the teeth. They fight apartheid government so they make and they liberate black South Africans, and today South Africa be liberated. It don't happen with many revolutions. See some other person on the other side of the camp. Just as a Tanganji Port, they go to the other side. We get some people that they come out the other side, come this side, but fight them, we get our land back. And because I don't get comments where they say our professor, be Ambazon, all those things doesn't matter. If you don't understand somebody, listen to you and know who side it come from. It fight on the background a lot for this struggle where you know where some of we not even do them at all. So before maybe we go on this music break, we go like to get calls and talk about the issues we're going to discuss and with Professor Patrice. And also forget discussions on my trip to Boya and questions where people that would like to ask me.
Yeah, let's have a music break, and then after that break, we'll come back, open the lines, and we'll hear from you.
Hey, them they beat us, them they kill us, them they wound us, Southern Cameroon. Hey, yeah. Southern Cameroon, not for by men that way, yeah, they. Southern Cameroon, not for man fair with me, I go pass. Southern Cameroon, not for Boya with me, I go lewa. Southern Cameroon, not for Kumba with me, I go stay.
Petit frère, you walk and so. You don't get no problem, they shoot you for that door. For that door, right for that door.
Not for Mutengene, not for Mampe, not for Tombo, not for Mwa, not for Ombe, not for Limbe. like this, where the future of our kids, where them they brutalize us like this for streets, where them good roast them day, when man they walk out from Kumba to Manfe, where the promises them day, we're picking up we go sent to school. I know say pay battle, then for this level me I don't know. Jacare for lewa, police enter rape my sway, I don't know. Them the whip students, them with sticks. Them the slap lawyers, them for streets. Them they follow we, they drag we. Them molest we, they crack we like say we thief. Them they beat us, they carry us, they go. Them they mash we, they turn we for much. Them they throw away we crashing water for skin out. Them they flood we take us, them for house. Hey! Southern Cameroon, not for Bamen that way, yeah, they. Southern Cameroon, now for man fair with me, I go pass. Southern Cameroon, now for boy with me, I go lewa. Southern Cameroon, now for Kumba with me, I go stay. The pain is too much, we cannot take it, no more. Make una live we go survival. We are living in fear. All the bad people make una hear. Them say them go do this, go do that. They promise and fail. This time you don't fail. Them they mash we, they turn we for much. Them they throw away we crashing water for skin out. Them they flood we take gas, them for house. Hey! Southern Cameroon, not for Bamen that way, yeah, they. Southern Cameroon, not for man fair with me, I go pass. Southern Cameroon, not for boya with me, I go lewa. Southern Cameroon, not for Kumba with me, I go stay.
Laila.
Boomba.
Yeah, it's your boy N-I-V-O-T-I. Niveau T, baby.
Yeah, the country wave, man don't know French, you own all days. Can't some country this. Pay where you ask for change, they go carry you banga, es can't some pay that. Pay when I do the money konenge, es can't some pay this. Government where they use .t for hide .t, es can't some government this. Oh man for here na man no man. If you bother the why you no man. Oh man for here the hell up a countryman. Baby for chino me say you don't be na man. Pay where you finish the why you go ride concusote you sister. Your name not be Atangana Umbaraga. You want pack say you chop wish. Men they don't dangwa nangamboko. Men they drink tea umbanga. How a man go embezzle 50 billion? Parent get hale say they been gumba. Men they brush teeth with the caster, wash face with the Amstel, drink nimbo so they forget for thing. Fine boys so no kobo. Other nations they go on avant, mais le pays si marche en arrière. Now which can I pay this? Ça c'est catch out the pay ici. Then they go come on the street, say thing them will change. Repay only win a show. When better them come out on top, you shoot and say they shrine a door. Now so you men they don't vex, men they boy with the anger for neck. Now so you no feed food no man will check. Men they do anyhow, no the check. Even they like say the men they want carry gun. I swear the men if he carry gun. Child by men and not the fear of body, men and not the fear of women. The men that don't vex. The men that don't vex. I swear the men that don't vex. The men that don't vex. The men if he carry gun. The men if he carry gun. I swear God, the man if he carry gun. The man if he carry gun. Popo ya own too much. Ya own too much. I swear Popo ya own too much. Ya own too much. Wow, Popo ya own too much. Ya own too much. Repe freedom men them, massa freedom amend them. Then you bring that men them for table, make all una talk. Leadership not be enough for mob. Ya own too much. Why not?
Welcome back. Welcome back. So we will be having, let's just clear the schedule. On top of the hour, we will be having press hour with Dr. Nick from the presidency. It will be press hour for 1 hour. Then after press hour, the VP will get to studio and I will interview the VP on my trip to Boya. So that will happen around 9 p.m. Amba time, if I'm clear with that. So we want to open our lines. Amba Perspective will never be Amba Perspective without feedback from our viewers, especially from those in ground zero when they call and talk to us and tell us their perspective and tell us their experiences. So we'll ask our technical team to put up the number on the screen so people can call in to studio. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you every Amba Perspective. So let's take the next few minutes and talk to each other. Share your own perspective towards the struggle, especially towards my trip to Boya. I think it's the most important thing that every Ambazonian should rally behind right now. So those lines are open and we are waiting on your calls. So we are while we are waiting for calls, it's just important that we go back to the comments that Ray made, after we interviewed Prof. Patrice. There were some few people in the comment section on Facebook who felt, offended that he's francophone. But I would testify that Prof. Patrice Ngang is fighting for the Ambazonian cause more than a lot of the so-called Anglophones. So let's just stop for such negative views. I would just beg you to just stop bringing in the negative energy. Welcome to Amba Perspective. Hello, welcome to Amba Perspective.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Amba Perspective.
Yeah, I can see you guys. I just like to thank you very much for what you are doing. You are not doing so. We know that it's a sacrifice that a very little of us can afford to offer. So I thank you. I thank you, my brothers, and I just want to say this. I've also done I have my ticket. It's something that everybody is doing. We are in that meeting those who are standing around. We are asking our friends if others their tickets. So we are fighting for that. What I want to say is, I want you to ask or find AI that I want to start a a cause. I want us to sustain when we have our country. I want us to sustain the a lot of people and the whole people. There will nothing like a friendship like so. We have to any francophone or any French person. Nothing. They have to tell me what they are doing. They are doing the practice element.
So I don't know, is it a question? Are you just saying that we have to hate francophones? Is that what you are saying? Is that what I'm getting you say, sir?
Yes, go on.
Sorry that we lost that caller. I couldn't hear him clearly, but what I was hearing at the end of the day, we have to distance ourselves from francophones. If that's what I was hearing, then it's definitely on the back of the call, the interview that we had with Prof. Patrice Nganang. And that would be a pity if Ambazonians are saying that. Welcome to Amba Perspective.
Hello, welcome to Amba Perspective. Person has gone off.
Yeah, so if the previous caller was saying that we should distance ourselves from francophones, I would say it's a pity that Ambazonians would want to think that way. It's not a fair thing. Like, if you have listened throughout the interview, this resolution 718 in the US Congress, this resolution was submitted by Patrice Nganang's professor colleagues in the University of Stony Brook. And this resolution, it's on him. And he said, no, listen, the people who are facing these things in Cameroon are the Ambazonians. And he just said on this platform today that he would prefer, and he has told them that he would prefer to bring an Ambazonian to talk about the Ambazonian issues than for him, francophones, to try to articulate. Hello?
Hello?
Welcome to Amba Perspective.
Hello?
Yeah, please switch off your radio, your TV, or put the volume down before you talk so that we don't get a rebound from your volume.
Hello?
Yes, hello. We can hear you clearly.
Hello?
Hello?
Reduce your volume.
Yes,
sir.
we can hear you, but you need to move away from your receiver. Sir.
Yes, I'm okay.
All right, go ahead.
I'm from Balquat.
Oh, thanks for the call, sir. Welcome to Amba Perspective. You are live on air.
It's gone off.
Oh, sorry about that. So when you call us, you need to move away from your receiver so that we can hear you clearly. Or when you call us from your phone, you need to just focus on the phone and you not try to watch at the same time because it will interrupt the call. So,
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Amba Perspective.
Yeah, this is Dr. Tata from Washington, D.C.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, I listened to the Amba Perspective and the professor presentation, and I looked at it and I saw that the only thing I had a little problem was because he's referring to our problem as the Anglophone problem. I think we are past that stage. It is not. We are a people. We are not a language. Somebody speaking English is not necessarily Anglophone. We are a people, and the history shows that some of us can speak French, some of us can speak other languages, but we refer to ourselves as a people. Am I right?
No, you be right, brother, and we go try to correct that as people that they come on our show. a lot of it was, even those of us from Ambazonia, some of we still call them Anglophone problem. Not because we want to call them that way, but just because we don't get, some of we know why be educated in that aspect for call and debate, use the right appellation. So with time, when we get people on our shows, even some other people when they don't be Ambazonians, when they talk about our issue, we try to educate them more and more, and the more they come, they change their tone and they use the right appellations on the shows, and they get to understand why we don't want to use the word Anglophone problem, because it's not an, it'll be a language problem as such, and we be a people actually don't articulate them.
Thank you so much. I'm not clarified, because our narrative to the world is very, very important. When we refer to ourselves as Northwest, Southwest, it's just narrow our narrative. They say, oh, that is an internal problem. The world watches us. We are two distinct entities, and there is no legal document that combines us together. That's why we are saying that we want, we have reversed back to self-determination, and we have referred back to restore our independence, which we declared October 1 last year.
That's true.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tata, for phoning in. I think on these issues of semantics, we Ambazonians, we really need to be patient. We understand that we have to change the narrative, and there's a narrative that has been for the past around 30 years that, and these people are conditioned, human beings are conditioned a certain way by media, by propaganda. There is a narrative, and the expectation that you take a shift immediately when you decide, and then you just turn and you face that way. The people who were intentional on the journey, obviously, we are all Ambazonians because we have been intentional. But there are some people who are coming from behind. There are some people who are not standing in our shoes. And our duty is to educate them. And educating people has to take a very gradual process, a very gracious process, if I must say. So that's the attitude that we should take. You know, I remember when we started the relationship with Punchline, they never understood our problem. They misinterpreted it in every single way. And they would be on TV. I'll be sitting here in the studio and cringing on the things that they said. But these people are not Amazonians. They don't know our story, and they have just heard of our story a year ago, a few months ago. My duty as an Ambazonian was to educate them. And I had to be patient, and gradually, you can see the shows that Punchline does now on Ambazonia. They are clear, they understand, they articulate it properly. You can even see the videos that they share. They understand what is happening. They understand that we are a people. They understand our right to restoration of our independence, our right, to self-determination and all that. But it took a little bit of time to re-educate them. So we need to be patient in that light. I think that is a point that we generally agree on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. So on those clarifications, I think there's a lot of clarifications that we all need to involve in.
Hello.
Yes. Good evening, comrades Derek and Ray.
Yes.
How do I do?
As I would define how you.
Well, I did fine too. I did fine. I did fine.
Line look the person you are skinny fine.
The line with the worry. You see, our brother will come from the US. I get that very problem with when person call it Anglophone, my belly the one explode with anger because my dear friends, they will first give me this name for the United States. We know be West Cameroonians, we know be Southern Cameroonians, and then gradually they don't reduce we from a people where they get their own nation, from the people where they get their own state, from the people that will be with their government, where they get self-governance. They don't reduce it gradually to be a small province inside a country. Now, why that way? Plenty of Anglophone where they grow up now, they need to understand when we say we be bit different, they don't understand if we come out shout say no, we don't want them anymore. They compare we with this the way they don't like to build a country. Look, for instance, go back, just check things. You get school for North Cameroon, where the school they make our tap, but with schools, because they will be there, we be build our school with blocks, we zinc up ourselves, our parents will be build themselves, because they will teach them to be patriotic, to build their nation up. So if we not stop now to make them, me La Republic no say we be Southern Cameroon, we be West Cameroon where they be name before the unification. They no go ever they use them for La Republic Cameroon. They don't ever know say we be different. So my brother them, when I talk, I talk with some anguish because it be too much. They don't reduce we. When we start for revandicate, when we start for talk say no, it's not correct. Someone come on with a bit more like tilapia. It talk say get together where they be anglophone. They be get together they do English. Now why they be anglophone? No, but they be far from the point. We not be anglophones. We will be a nation. They be the core we. British Southern Cameroon, because British will get Northern British Cameroon and British Southern Cameroon. So when they say move, we come for that union now. They call we West Cameroon, they call them East Cameroon. And we get for Tana for that name. We don't get for make them be reduced to move be underdog them. A small province, move dirty like East Province for the Republic of Cameroon, or move dirty like other provinces them. Go for their suburbs them. You see schools them. Schools them, they don't dilapidate, but go for a province where they don't reduce what we done for a long time, but we still build our school them, we still build our infrastructure with our own power, and we want to make it remain so. So, my brother them, we really try all for cancel everything, cancel all that name where they give we, write that name for paper, maybe they don't call again names them, because when they give name for a dog, if that dog don't strong, they will take that name, they say that dog in name don't be so, I will kill that dog now. Now why did they say they get power for kill we, but we'll say no, you don't correct.
No,
if they don't be people call we Southern Cameroon, they don't say we be Anglophones, they don't say we be foreigners.
Thank you.
I thank you for the wonderful job.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Uncle P.
When I get a nice evening, I beg, I'm not going to take too much time when I get a nice evening. So, we Southern Cameroonians them, or if they don't want to call we Southern Cameroonians, they call we West Cameroon. We be West Cameroonians. That now the name that will be get them well, the inter-union. Today they call themselves like Republic of Cameroon. So where the West Cameroon they don't reduce will be like ants. Inside they call it 2 cubes of sugar. So we remain that West Cameroon will be there because they don't be like Republic of Cameroon. So finish palava.
Thank you, Uncle P. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, good evening, oh.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much, Uncle P.
Yes.
The passion from Uncle P, you know, if somebody has never spoken to Uncle P one-on-one, you know, other than the show, they will not understand the heart that this man has, you know, for our liberation and the work that he's doing.
True.
I just admire you so much, Uncle P. You inspire a lot of us. And on the back of this argument, I wanted to say there's a lot of corrections that we as Ambazonians need to start making. And I would list a few of them on this show today.
Hello.
So one of the first of those corrections, and this is the spin that Chiruma keeps on spinning and making us look funny. The first one is they usually say we are 20% of Cameroon. That is not true. When the two Cameroons united, it was said we were 1/3 of Cameroon. Now, unless something happened to British Southern Cameroons, that people died, you know, in some proportions that we cannot count, we are not 20% of Cameroon. Because when you tell somebody internationally, I don't know, Ray, if you can hold that for a moment, let me finish the thought. Okay.
This is already online.
Welcome to Amba Perspective, sir. When you tell somebody that 20% of the country, and this is especially to somebody who was foreign to what is happening at home with La Republique and Ambazonia, when you tell somebody in a political dispensation that it's 20%, the idea of minority is planted. That is what you are not saying. You are saying that you are a minority. No, we are not a minority. We are not.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Welcome to our perspective.
Yeah, welcome, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, how are you?
We are fine, thank you. You are live on Amba Perspective.
Yeah. I'm calling from the homeland at Ground Zero.
Well, that's great. At Ground Zero day, my brother.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, hello. Go ahead.
Yeah, the problem in Ground Zero at the Southwest is that the ghost stand that is going to make on Monday, they have said that on Monday we have got clean up in Tico.
That clean up the Tico.
Yeah, the whole Tico now, every Monday we have a clean up now. They've changed it to use it as a clean up.
Okay, we hope that we'll get this message to the interim government, and we hope that they would look at ways to decide on that, especially for the town of Tico. Thank you so much for bringing up that information, sir. We have noted that, and we hope that we will take it up to leadership.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your
Have a nice day.
You too, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. So in PR, the things that you are saying also means the things that you are not saying. When somebody says we are 20% to the international community, what they are hearing is that this is a minority that is disgruntled. Welcome to Our Perspective.
Yeah, good evening.
Evening, sir.
Yeah. I'm from Balikuma.
How Balikuma, my brother?
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Welcome to Amba Perspective.
Yeah. I'm from Balikuma.
Yes. Good evening. Tell us about the current situation in Balikuma now.
Yeah. What do we want to? Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you listen? Would you listen?
No.
Yeah, would you listen?
No, you're fine. Because what worry we know about that mission of one woman?
Okay.
But we're fine.
So now what is the worry for Balikumba?
It's gone off.
Oh, we are sorry about that. So this argument is an argument that La République du Cameroon in their PR machineries, they have pushed out a lot, that we are 20%. No, we are not 20%. When we joined in 1961, we were 1/3 of that union. Our country was 1 out of 3 parts. So that is not 20%. And when they keep pushing that argument, they are pushing the minority argument. An international community is very important because minorities tend to be people who disturb a lot of the normal around the world. So that is one thing that we need to fight against a lot and start telling people that we are 1/3 of Cameroon. And Cameroon is the only country where the census are never published. It's national, what do they call that? It's some national intelligence protected what information. They don't publish their census. So we don't know what census are. The government wakes up and says, oh, now the population is this number. Oh, now they have never published a census. They say they say that census are national security classified information. And all that, there's an agenda on us with that.
Yeah, the reason why La République need to publish census now because they know what make know the number of people there, and the truth na say we don't grow so much exponentially for the past 56 years where it surprised them and it baffled them a lot, and we not been a minority as the one for maybe the world for think because because the minority under some kind circumstances, they always been a disgruntled few, where because they be minority, they be disgruntled about the things, but not be basic people that will be a people and will be Southern Cameroonians, will be ambassadors.
Welcome to Amba Perspective.
Yeah, hello.
Welcome to Amba Perspective. You are live.
Yeah, yes, I'm calling from Ghana.
Welcome, sir. You can go ahead and share your perspective.
Yes, I want to talk about the defense force issue.
Okay.
Yes, I want to have an idea to propose for the defense of our people because of the situation that is happening, especially in the Bialan County, where those terrorists are terrorizing our people because of the killings or the taking away of the border land. So I thought at least as those forces have been united, they should at least try to let the inhabitants to know where they are, so that at least it should in case of anything they can send off.
Okay.
Yeah, so what was it? He talks about the kidnap of who?
Well, I didn't hear that. I thought he wanted to make a proposal on defense. No. So what we will do is we'll take his number and we'll send it to those in the Defense Council, and they'll probably take up the issue with him and see what he was trying to say. Another very important thing that we have talked about is that it's important for communities to be acting in union.
Yeah.
If you see the colonial forces coming, it's your duty to inform people, you know, further than your jurisdiction.
Welcome to Amba Perspective. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, welcome, sir.
Yeah, I'm calling for Ambaland.
How Ambaland today?
No, we got there.
Okay, tell me what you want for listeners for here.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Yeah. Go ahead. God.
Yeah. So there's another game that La Republique plays. When you listen to francophones, especially, and at times federalists, when they're explaining this crisis to international people, they usually say it's the 2 provinces out of 10. That 2 out of 10 makes us, again, it brings back that 20% argument, you know, like, you know, it's like there was some federal system and we are 2 parts of 10. No, we are 1 part of 2. That is what we are in the Cameroon dispensation. 2 countries
of equal status.
La République du Cameroon and Southern Cameroons came together. We are not 2 parts of 10. We are 1 part of 2. That is what we are. That is something that we have to forcefully go out and correct.
Welcome to Amba Perspective.
Hello?
Yes,
hello. Welcome to Amba Perspective.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I want to greet you people.
Thank you.
I'm called from Ambaland.
How are you doing, Ambaland, today?
Yes, I'm calling from Ambaland.
All right, go ahead, sir. Oh God.
Yeah. So that is a very important argument. Don't let anybody to push that whole 10 province thing with you. No, we are 1 part of 2. 2 Cameroons came together, and 1 part was Southern Cameroons, and the other part was French Cameroon. They returned to their name in 1984, clearly, you know, saying that they don't care about who we are, disappearing who we are. Right now, we are restoring that who we are. And in that process, there's a lot of arguments that are coming up. We need to stop accepting that whole argument of no, it's 2 parts of 10. No, we are 1 part of 2. And that is what we are taking out.
Yeah, we came together and 2 equal partners.
Yeah. So these are things that we need to be putting in our arguments. We need to be putting those in our arguments to clarify the international community. Because these things are pushed, and we even use them at times, and they are pushed by the enemy, and it makes our case really difficult.
All right, we don't come for the end of the show. We want to just round up, and we want to say we don't know if we take more calls again, because we just get 1 minute to close the show. And we just want to remind all our Ambazonians, say we get press briefing from the presidency immediately after, in an hour's time, and then thereafter we get the acting vice president, Mr. Taka Milton. He will come up for an interview here on the show. So we want to stay tuned, because we get very rich programming from now until probably 11 p.m. And for those, I would not yet say that it fixed road for that side, for Sandago, Pingi, or Pasgo, Batibo. Next show, I would like to say those of Unona there around that area, make una call, tell me whether not true, whether they defeat that road for the carry soldiers that they pass there for go that type of Batibo for go attack our people, so that we go start to prepare the people for where they go fit see, because we know say any place where La Republic soldiers and pass there, they leave carnage. So the people of Pingi now, they be in danger. Make them be very careful. No say if not true say La Republic they fix their road for begin pass there, then their own time don't reach way La Republic will kind of start attack them, and they go start to prepare themselves for that. And on my way, he wants to contribute for my trip to Boya, find a way, and especially those on ground zero, find a very safe way and try to contribute that trip to Boya, because it be real. And why that way our acting vice president, they come on board today. I want to talk to me. Everybody make sure say they listen to that interview for get more insight on that project, because there's a plan, and if you want to be part of that plan, you give them make sure say you put money on the table.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that in 2 hours time I'll be interviewing the acting vice president, His Excellency Mr. Milton Taka, on my trip to Boya. I've got a lot of questions that I want to ask him, some of the questions that have been coming up on our platforms. I'm asking our viewers to stay tuned, because the press secretary, Dr. Nick Santos, is coming up in an hour's time with press briefing from the presidency, and then we will be moving right after that to the interview with His Excellency Milton Taka, the acting vice president. Thank you, and stay tuned to SABC.
Bye-bye.
We, the people, are being cajoled, frightened, and bullied into surrendering our democracy and freedom. This film is a rallying cry. We must fight for our independence